Number 1 overall draft pick, Rookie of the Year, 7-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA, NBA champion, and the best handles in NBA history. That is a great legacy that is better than 99% of NBA players. This legacy belongs to Kyrie Irving. Unfortunately for him, this amazing on-court legacy has been tainted by an even more interesting off-the-court legacy. Now, there are plenty of all-time greats with off-the-court issues, but Kyrie's off-court issues leaked into his on-court legacy. By many accounts, one of the most offensively skilled basketball players of all time is now unable to win when you give him two other superstars. To me, the legacy of Kyrie Irving can be split into two parts, Cleveland Kyrie and post-Cleveland Kyrie. So let's start with the first part of Kyrie's legacy. Kyrie Irving was picked with the number 1 overall pick by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 2011 NBA draft. This was a great fit, as it gave Kyrie the keys early, and Cleveland, who had just recently lost their franchise player, had a new young star. He averaged 18, 5, and 4 and won the Rookie of the Year award. Then the next 2 years, he increased to 20 points per game and made the All-Star game in both years. Then that summer, he was up for an extension, but getting him that extension was not even close to some of the other moves Cleveland front office would make that summer. They won the lottery again, drafting who at the time was seen as the next LeBron, Andrew Wiggins. Speaking of LeBron, he came back to Cleveland that summer. With the pressure to contend immediately, they traded Wiggins for Minnesota's star big man, Kevin Love. Now, unfortunately that year, Kevin Love would get injured in the playoffs against the Celtics, and Kyrie would get injured in the finals. This led Cleveland to lose to the Warriors, but the potential was there. The next year, they would get their rematch, and after going down 3-1, Kyrie had many legacy-defining moments. In their first elimination game, Kyrie had 41 on 82% shooting. Then, in the deciding Game 7, Kyrie hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history. With this, Kyrie was an NBA champion, hit one of the biggest shots, and cemented himself in NBA history. With so much potential and a great team, Kyrie's career had a bright future. Or so we thought. That offseason, the team they beat in the NBA Finals had Kevin Durant and built the greatest team of all time. As predicted, the Cavs lost to this team in the NBA Finals, but Cleveland had bigger problems. With all of this success, it is natural for someone to develop an ego. Kyrie developed an ego and was tired of being seen as a second option to LeBron. He requested a trade to the young up-and-coming Boston Celtics to show he could lead a team like LeBron had led him. Unfortunately, like he had dealt with various times earlier in his career, he got injured going into that year's playoffs. With him, as well as Gordon Hayward out, the Celtics team led by a rookie Jason Tatum would have just been satisfied getting out of the first round. However, Tatum and Brown led this team to the conference finals against LeBron's Cavs and took them to 7. With Kyrie and Gordon Hayward coming back, this team was seen by some as the most talented team in the league, and that was with KD on the Warriors. However, this is the year where we start to see a trend that would follow Kyrie through his career. With 3 star-level veterans and 2 young stars, there was a lot of stepping on each other's feet. Hayward and Horford had regressed, and Kyrie expected to have the keys, but Tatum and Brown weren't ready to give them up after their electrifying playoff run. This imbalance of egos led to an early exit in the second round to the Bucks, and similarly to Cleveland, Kyrie had a foot out the door as he had felt he had lost control. Then, an opportunity that he could not pass on arose. The Brooklyn Nets had tons of cap space, so he and KD decided to team up. Now with KD, he wouldn't be the number 1, but KD was out for the season. With total control over the front office, these two made tons of moves, including a DeAndre Jordan signing. Like I mentioned earlier, KD being out for the season meant that once again, Kyrie had a chance to lead his own team, but he ended up only playing 20 games due to injury. The next season, with KD back, the Nets went all in, trading all their remaining assets for James Harden. Now the only problem with this is that now you have 3 stars who are injury-prone and tend to load manage. This led to the big 3 hardly playing any games together, and then them getting injured in the playoffs, losing by just an inch to the eventual champion Bucks. Even with all of these injuries, and Kyrie no longer leading the team, the next season was their chance. Unfortunately, like many times leading up to that, Kyrie got in his own team's way. Brooklyn had a COVID policy that made it so players could not play without being vaccinated. Unfortunately, this flat earther also happened to not trust the COVID vaccine. Now, I'm not saying Kyrie had to believe in the vaccine, but there comes a point where a player must sacrifice his own beliefs for his team. There were players who did this, like Andrew Wiggins, watch my video last week, but Kyrie chose not to make this sacrifice for his team. This, alongside with mismanagement of egos, led James Harden to request a trade mid-season. Then, even when Kyrie came back, the Nets were unable to get it together and they were swept. That brings us to the modern day. Now, Kyrie wants to be traded out of Brooklyn because it is obviously their fault that one of their max players didn't want to play basketball. And now it's astonishing that teams are worried to trade for a player who seems to always be injured, choosing not to play, or just screws up his team's chemistry. There are many who try to take blame off Kyrie for most of this, but at some point you have to acknowledge that problems seem to follow this guy and it is not a coincidence. Anyways, it seems he's going to the Lakers to reunite with LeBron, a star-level big who gets injured, and it's almost like he wants to forget what the last 5 years of his career even happened. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Kyrie left Cleveland to prove he could lead a team, when in reality all he did was prove he couldn't. So now you've seen both parts of this guy's career. Now it's time to analyze what it all means. Kyrie will always be the guy who had the biggest three and the biggest comeback, but he will also be the guy who can't win, even when placed on crazy talented teams. Now, being unable to lead a team to a championship is not a bad thing. It's just Kyrie was so sure he could, he ended up wasting 5 years just trying to prove he could, while just causing controversy all along the way. Again, this doesn't take away all the success he had as a second option, but it does impact his legacy. Ego is inevitable, but Kyrie let his get much bigger than the player he was. This will leave many of us remembering him as an arrogant failure, as this overshadows his previous success. So to put it simply, Kyrie has ruined his legacy, and it will take a lot to return it back to where it was when he was a young kid helping LeBron win a chip. So that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and feel free to talk about how you analyze Kyrie's legacy in the comments below. I mentioned it briefly in the video, but 2 weeks ago I dropped a video going more in depth with the Kyrie vaccine situation and compared it to Wiggins, a player who also was anti-vax but took the sacrifice. Sorry for missing last week's upload, I was busy with some stuff, and yeah. Anyways, please like and subscribe for more weekly NBA content. Peace out.